Hi, I thought I'd do a check-in. I've had the quails laying for about 6 months now, and I thought I'd share what I learned and some things that worked and didn't work, and answer some questions that I know a lot of people have. My balcony door is rather dirty, so this won't be a clear image, but I think you'd rather see them than see me. So here we go. I got 6 little quail last summer. We live in Barcelona, although I'm an American from Vashon Island, which is in Washington State near Seattle. And these are my quarantine quail. I went through the somewhat scary experience of having grocery stores go unstocked or half stocked, or just in general see people panic over food in a big city. And though I'm really fortunate and my family has been fine throughout this whole period, it got me thinking more than ever about what kinds of things I could do in my small space, a balcony the size of a twin mattress, to be a little bit more prepared and also, have a pet for my kids. I've got twins who are 7, and some people do keep quail as companion animals. They even have them inside. We don't handle ours so much, but my boys consider these quails their little sisters, and they participate and take pride in it. Let's see. What do I feed my quail? This is not what you should feed your quail. You should do what you want to do, but here's what I feed my quail. I started them on a commercial game bird mix. The brand I use is Country Best, and it's for showbirds. The protein on it was adequate for growing young birds. They grow very fast in the beginning, and so the feed itself comes in stages 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on whether they're laying or not yet, or whether people are kind of finishing them off to eat as meat. So far, I've only had hens, and I'm not doing any meat production. But that covers you as you're kind of figuring out what you're doing if you're new to it. Some things that I feed mine that seem to make them pretty happy and keep things interesting in here. They like it a lot if, as I'm packing my kids' snack for the day, if I mince the apple core down to quail beak sized, they very happily will eat that little handful of apple core. They really are granivores and insect eaters. So in their natural environment, things like millet seed and, bugs that you find by scratching around are the preferred food. They go pretty wild for black soldier fly larvae. And so I sift through my compost periodically and find as many of those as I can. That keeps them very happy. But other things too, you could take your carrot shavings or peelings and mince those down to a quail bite size, and they'll pretty happily eat those. I get about a double handful of greens from a vacant lot or a nearby park in our neighborhood as often as I can. There are a lot of things that grow all over the place, in many climates, all kinds of grasses with their seed heads or without. Mallow, yarrow, dandelion, sow thistle, pig's ear. Pig's ear, I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, the kinds of greens that you would pull out of your lawn or your yard, for the most part, are just fine to throw in. If you're not planning to eat them as meat birds, you can worry even less about them eating something that they can eat but that would concentrate toxins for people. I've read about, though I've never heard about with a real person, that there is a sickness people can get from eating animals that have been raised on food poisonous to humans. So, skip the oleander and things that wouldn't be good for you. But if it's local forage where you are and something that you could eat, shepherd's purse, lamb's ear, all kinds of things, if you look along those lines, you're probably fine. One nice thing about quail is that unlike fish, they don't overeat and stuff and kill themselves. So if you provide an overabundance, they'll just eat what they want and walk on the rest. Same goes for having a system where you have kind of a silo set up where you can shake food down to them. I have mine outside my bedroom, so in the morning I make sure they have food in the water, and in the evening I do, and if I brought them greens. And one of the things I learned was that before I had, you can see right now that they're pecking their heads in, and if you use a PVC type pipe feeder, that's homemade with help from my brother-in-law and his nice tool shop in Cubeus, they waste a lot less. If you have birds on wire and it's open and they're throwing it all around, well, then people are likely to lose a lot of the feed just to having it fall through. Mine are actually not on wire. They are on offcuts of laminate flooring that I salvaged from neighbors who'd renovated. And so I can clean that floor periodically. I use playground sand for their dusting box and a smaller layer for their floor. And then I can pull that material out when it's past time or when it, seems like time, with either like a shower squeegee or kitchen implements like a spatula. Sometimes if there's a little caked on, I can just kind of scrape away at it. I use a regular old dustpan from a children's toy set, a small dustpan that fits in there. And there are specialized tools you can buy with longer handles or, a flat little pull. But I've made mine basically the reach of one arm. And so I just sit on this little chair, and I can reach in and get eggs, and I can reach in and do cleaning. I use this upper part, which initially I had a ramp and thought it would be like a nesting box or a place to put them while I clean. They tolerate me really well now, so I don't really need to take them out to clean. They just move to one side and I clean, and then they move to the other side and I clean. Only about maybe once a month do I really go for pristine. Most of the time, it's just kind of scooping out the sand and getting them new sand. And you can kind of scour with the sand too, even if it's dirty. A solution of water and apple cider vinegar is a good natural way to clean, and can neutralize some of the smell if you haven't had enough litter down. I don't have a real deep litter system. It looks excellent for people who have the means to set one up, but mine's sort of modified because I don't have any land here, and I'm pretty happy to just clean it out on a regular basis. If you do it often, it's not that big a deal, and it just gets slid into kind of a worm bin compost that I have going. It's very high in nitrogen and kind of hot. I wouldn't put it on plants right away, but in my experience, since it's being mixed in with sand and a fair amount of green waste that they've picked over, it hasn't been too hot for the worms yet. And I try to do kind of one side of the bin at a time so that if the worms don't want to be in the new material, they don't have to be. But it's been an interesting experience trying to set up kind of the smallest permaculture spot I can. And I grow flowers and a few things my kids like to eat, like raspberries and cucumbers. And I did a lot of nasturtium because that's the seeds I had already when we went into lockdown. Tomatoes. Right now I have a bunch of radishes starting and a lot of young avocado that won't thrive here long term, but maybe if I'm lucky I can plant them at the in-laws over the summer where they have the room they need. Anyway, that's my intro to quail. Very quiet, sweet birds, worth a try, and laid nearly 600 eggs in these 6 months since their start of laying. I think it was 589 officially.